Welcome to the CEO Bros Podcast, After Hours, with Brian Baldoff, co-founded, grew, and sold VHT Studios. Brad Baldoff, CEO and co-founder of By Your Side Autism Therapy Services. Matt Croak, the consummate entertainer, jack of all trades, and serves as our host.
As we're talking about podcast stats, have you checked in lately? How are the numbers for?
I got an interesting one. I actually thought it was cool. Because in the last month or so, our percentage of viewers has gone up considerably in the great country and continent of Australia.
Really?
Australia.
Wait, we're big in Australia?
We are. Over 45%. Over 40% of our viewers, 42% of our viewers are coming from the land down under, which, by the way, so we're so excited. I'm so excited by that because I've never been there. I've always wanted to be there.
I've never been there.
I've been to New Zealand. I've not been to Australia.
That's different.
Oh, they don't like that.
Believe me.
They don't like
Believe me. Every time you walk to New Zealand, they're like, do you know why Australia's windy? Because they suck. And we or something like
wow. So they don't have a good sense of humor either.
So I did this, and I thought you guys would all... and Amber, you're in this as well. I want you to hear this. I want you guys to hear this. These are fun facts about Australia. What I'd love to see is if any of our Australian viewer friends out there comment, ask us questions. Tell us, do we have this right? Is this data right?
So please hit that subscribe button, especially if you're off from Australia.
It's free.
Comment. Let us know if you hear us, because apparently 42% of you are listening to us. So
the myths, the facts, everything. Yeah. I think Australia is so cool. I want to get out there.
They've got a huge comedy festival that I'm dying to get out there. Very, very.
I want to meet the Wiggles. You guys know who the Wiggles are? Yes. You don't? No. Everybody in Australia knows who the Wiggles are. Okay, so
these are 10 things you thought about Australia and found out they're not true, or
these are 10 facts.
Okay, are we guessing on any of these?
And these facts came off the internet, so we know what you can get off the internet.
So then we'll comment.
Could be total BS. Right, the first one I already said. Australia is the only continent covered by a single country. We know that. There's only one country on the continent of Australia. Okay, pretty common sense.
Okay, yeah.
Let's start easy. Start easy. Okay.
Are there any countries in Antarctica? There's no countries there, right? It's just a continent.
All right, we can't veer off.
Just stay on Australia.
Veer off course on
that
simple fact.
Sorry, right. Focus. Can
we just keep here? Okay.
Brian's like, isn't there a movie, Old Men for Country? No,
Number
Brian,
2.
We're not going.
The only continent without an active volcano. Maybe that's surprising. Maybe it's not. But I thought that was kind of cool. Right. There's no active volcano. Is that?
Again, I'd check Antarctica, but all right.
Okay, I guess we get Antarctica.
I love how this has turned into Australia, Antarctica.
All right, here's a question. True or false, is Australia one of the 10 largest, not continents, because we know there's not 10 continents, but is Australia one of the 10 largest countries in the world? True or false?
Like geography-wise?
Yes. Land mass.
10?
I would say yes.
Top 10, I would have to say yes. If that's false,
I'd say yes too.
Okay, yes, you guys are all correct. It's yes. What number in the top 10?
4.
6.
Ooh. 3.
Okay. Brian is right with number 6. Australia is the 6th largest country in the world. Okay. So I thought that's kind of cool. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest. How many times
Brad says Brian's correct? Like, that's one.
The Great Barrier Reef is the largest ecosystem in the world. 3,000 individual reefs, all seen from outer space.
Wow. Can you
How about that little fact?
That would be, if you go there,
that's what I would love to do.
So
you'd have to do that.
Australia's got to be proud of the Great Barrier Reef. I want to see it. That'd be awesome. Okay. What percentage of 100 live on the coast?
Oh, I'm going to go, this is like Egypt. Egypt is huge, but it's like all on the, I'm going to go 76%.
I go 85.
85?
70.
Okay. 90% live on the coast. Wow. Brian is correct. 2-0. Brian's keeping a score.
Save that soundbite too when he says.
Wait, I need you to guess first. And now that this has turned into a Price is Right deal, I need you to go first.
Here's an interesting stat: the Australian Alps get more snow than the Swiss Alps. Could you imagine? I
That
never would have
surprises me.
thought
No.
that snow hits in Australia, but it does.
Yeah, that's
They get more snow than the Swiss Alps, Amber, A-Rex.
I still find it weird to being in Arizona and seeing snow.
Okay.
in those
Here's one that we know
Right.
here's one that we know in the States that Australia is probably tired of hearing, but home to 21 of the 25 venomous snakes in the world live in Australia.
Wow.
I will say to our Australian viewer friends that my son does not want to go out to Australia because of all of the poisonous animals out there. So maybe you can give us comment or questions. That's something we should be concerned about. Would love to hear from you
Do
guys.
they all live in the same town? Or-
How many snakes does Antarctica have?
right, that's a good question.
Well,
I'll
you know,
look that
no.
up
So
for next
Australia
week.
gets that rap of like they've got all the most venomous
Right.
snakes, the most
Dangerous
venomous spiders,
right.
dangerous. You know, box jellyfish. Okay, it's kind of the same myth as like people hear Chicago's the murder capital of the world. It may be, but it's in like a 4-block radius. I'm sure you don't run into spiders and snakes all the time, or do you? Let us know if you can send us a comment.
Well, when I was in Japan, I went to a pizza place at Chicago Pizza. So I went in there and all the posters were of Al Capone and cars like on fire. And I'm like, yeah, we've solved that problem. That's no longer.
That's not
And they're like,
Chicago.
oh, Chicago. But I'm like, yeah, that would.
Well, yeah, that's a reputation. On
I
other
know.
sides, other parts
Right.
of the world, they think Chicago's this crazy murder.
Well, if I
capital.
wonder for Australia, if 90%'s on the coast, I wonder if the snakes are once you get out into the wilderness and it's not that dangerous being on the coast.
Can you imagine Australian viewers right now are watching us just laughing at us?
I know.
These guys.
Let us know. Are we way off? Are we way off base?
Tell us, yeah.
I
Okay.
was going to ask you if you saw Godzilla while you were in Japan.
No, see,
I mean,
That's-
Al Capone.
All right. So here's an interesting stat, Brian. I think
where were you when I need you?
I think in podcast 1 or 2, you were talking about the dingoes, I believe.
That's correct.
Did
Even
have a
that.
dingo story,
And I don't know how that even came up because you've never
you
been to
saw
Australia.
a story or something.
Yeah, I must
And
have
I
missed
said
it.
there was a movie about the dingo stole my baby, and I won't do the accent because I don't want to be. And there's
I don't know that it's about that, but
No, but there was a very famous story where a dingo
where
took someone's
dingo stole a
child.
baby.
And
Fun
Okay.
fact,
they were charged with murder.
the longest fence in the world, Australia, the dingo fence.
No.
Keeps dingoes away from fertile land. The fence is now 5,614 kilometers long.
There's a dingo.
Is it kilometers? Kilometers. Yes, kilometers long.
How does that compare to the Great Wall of China, you think?
Will you
We're talking
stop
about,
with
Brian,
your
we're talking about a
picture?
fence.
How did you get from
Comparison.
Antarctica
Well, I mean, that's
to China?
impressive.
Nobody said a
That's
wall. We talked
Well, I
about
know
a fence.
but it's
Well, if you
long.
want to talk about the greatest wall, you could talk about China. We're talking
No,
about
I'm
a
saying,
fence.
how does it compare? That seems long. Maybe it's longer than
How does
a
a wall compare to a fence?
Okay,
I
it's the
know that.
dingo. It's the dingo fence.
I just
so
like
memorize
saying
that.
dingo.
Are you going upstairs? Tell my fiancé I'm looking for him. I have lost my fiancé, the poor baby.
Maybe the dingo ate your baby.
What?
The dingo ate your baby.
Dingo.
Dingo.
with the
Australia, not surprisingly, has over 60 separate wine regions. Not wineries, winery regions. That's pretty cool. They like to drink.
So it's
their
like we
wine.
have Napa Valley, we have one. They have
Okay,
60.
so here's a little fun fact, and A-Rex could appreciate this being a big beer drinker. No, she's not. We shouldn't say this. But what's the best-selling
did.
beer in Australia, guys?
That's from there.
This data is as of 2023. I don't have the.
I'm not going to
2024
say.
data.
I'm not going to say Foster's. I'm going to go.
Well, that just shows you how naive us
That's what I
Americans
would have
are.
said. Foster's.
Do you
Oh,
know
man.
Australian beers? A-Rex?
I don't actually.
I would have said Foster's.
You would have said
I'm gonna
Foster's.
go-
See, that's why I think Australians look at us and say, "You guys just don't know what you guys are talking about. Foster's is not our beer." The number one beer is Super Crisp Lager, which sells in 30 can packs. I think we got to get some of that.
Sounds
Super
delicious.
Maybe we
Yeah,
can be
I like it.
sponsored by our good friends.
I have
Super
a place
crisp.
in Park Ridge
Crisp
called
Lager.
Beer on the Wall where they've got like 50 styles. See if they have it. Super. What's it called?
Super crisp Lager, and I
Okay.
guess they come in 30 can packs.
Super
Our
Crisp Lager.
friends out there in
All right,
Australia.
Australia.
So we're totally
We see
into
you,
what's going
Australia.
on
We
there.
see you.
We totally appreciate our viewers out in Australia, and I wanted to read those little fun facts.
Maybe we do a remote out there.
Yeah, we'll have to do a remote
In
podcast.
this town with
Or
all these
maybe we should do some marketing out in Australia. Welcome to CEO
more
Bros.
marketing.
This is the
Yeah,
official.
yeah. Cheers.
Cheers after hours.
This is episode.
That was nice, Brad. That was cool. That's very interesting. That
I learned
42%.
something today.
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank
Something
goodness.
about
I didn't learn
dingoes.
anything all week, so this was cutting it close.
I love though when you learn things though, you ask as many questions as you learn. Because now I'm gonna have to look up Antarctica and find out how many poisonous snakes they have. Thank you, Brian. Thanks for that.
I've always been very inquisitive.
We are going to talk about marketing today, which is a vast topic.
Yes,
as usual, another big one.
As usual.
Yeah. So Brian,
Also very important.
Oh,
so we were kicking this around a little bit earlier. We were talking about marketing and the importance of marketing and everything you should know if you're starting. Let's talk about from the context of if you're somebody that's starting a new business and how you should be looking at marketing.
Right. Well, I mean, you could have the greatest product, greatest restaurant, greatest service in the world, but if people aren't aware of it, you're going out of business. So, I know we always talk, well, this is very important to a business, this is very important to a business. People knowing you're in business is pretty important. Yeah. And that's how most people, I think of marketing. But there's actually a lot more to it. We were chatting beforehand, the real kind of traditional scholastic way of thinking of marketing is the 4 P's of marketing.
But we'll make it 5.
We'll make it 5. Yeah.
We'll add
I don't even know. I don't even know the 4.
Let's talk about the 5 P's.
Is this a standard?
Well, So you would get this in a college marketing course, but from us,
how we view it, how Brian and I view it.
So traditionally, it's product.
Okay,
is the most important part in marketing. Then there's pricing, which is an important piece of the puzzle. Then there's
2 more P's, by the way. Piece of the puzzle. I like how you stick with the P's.
P's. Well done. I got a bunch for it. Let me tell you the one for real estate too. Don't let me forget. Okay. The third is place, which is where are you delivering your product? How are you delivering your product? Is it a store? Is it online? Things like that. And then the last is promotion, which is probably where we'll spend the most time today, because that's again how most people think of marketing. How do I promote my business, make people aware, get them interested, blah blah blah. But to start all that
is number 5 and number 1.
Yeah, really. It should really be number 1, which is people. Who
the demographic
am I targeting? Who is this product a fit for? Ideally, you've designed your product or your service or your software or whatever around a persona, a type of person, or so this in advance. But you also see a lot of businesses that just come up with products and it's like, well, who's going to buy this? It's like, I don't know, but it's cool. Somebody's going to buy it.
That's a pitfall.
And I'm just going to spend a bunch of money on advertising, or I'm going to spend a bunch of money on marketing. They don't even know who they're targeting. They don't even know who they're going after. So first and foremost, the key of the 5 P's is identify the people, the demographic that you're going after, that you think is most likely to buy your product or service, because then the whole strategy around your marketing strategy, it will then relate to that demographic. We were talking about stories earlier where Brian had an example of where they had the wrong demographic in mind, what happened, but we'll go into that.
I'll tell you about that. We've gone through exercises with our marketing teams, like very specific personas where you actually say, okay, let's put it on the board. Our customer is Sally. And Sally is 54 years old, and Sally grew up in the suburbs, and Sally likes to read, and you just develop these personas where you know everything about the person, because without that, marketing does become just a kind of a crapshoot. You're just throwing stuff against the wall, hoping and waiting to see who reacts and responds, and in the meantime, what drives Brad crazy is you're wasting a lot of money by doing that. So just like when we talked about in the episode about professional services, before you talk to an attorney, know what you're doing, because it's an expensive venture. Marketing can become very expensive very quickly if you don't know what you're doing and you're not cognizant of the return that you're getting on that investment. So
yeah, I mean, if you think about it, we'll just use very simply in the autism therapy world, we were going after the autism community, but more specifically, we were trying to target young mothers that had very young children. It's a very specific demographic that you're trying to let people know you're out there. But when you get to a more broader, if you're selling a food product, or you're selling a sport, sporting item
or apparel, or
it could be anything. It's like, all right, well, who is your most likely person to be buying this product or service? And if it's just some shotgun approach, the chances of you getting, the return on your investment and putting money into that, it could be completely all for naught, because you haven't targeted the right audience.
And price would identify that a little bit if it's a high-end item or something college kids can afford, right? Are there any other P's kind of help you identify the people you're looking for?
Well,
Place, maybe?
Part of that is how you're positioning your business. Like, I've mentioned before, VHT Studios, our overall strategy was to position ourselves as a premium brand. Something, on the order of a, Waldorf Astoria or a Lowe's hotel. This is the best of the best. But there's nothing wrong with, the other end. I want to be the low cost provider. I want to be able to provide the cheapest gym shoes or the cheapest, sewer cleaning service or whatever it is.
So that'll help define your
So think of the price point.
Well, it'll define your marketing. Yeah, we'll define your people.
But think of the price standpoint as, if from a marketing standpoint, is, to Brian's point, which directionally do you want to go? Do you want to be the premium provider in the space? The top. You are not running from the fact that you are the highest priced. You are the best of the best from the standpoint of, we're not even going to try to discount at all. We're going to be the highest price in this market, and we're going to go for that type of consumer. Versus Brian's point, where, hey, we actually are going to be the lowest cost provider out there, but we're going to do volume, and we're going to get our business done in volume. So that's one of the P's that you have to determine right up front is, where do you fall in that realm? What are you going after? So that's an important aspect of the overall marketing strategy, is which direction you want to go. And Brian's example of VHT Studios is, and he's told us and me on multiple occasions, like, we're not going to discount our product. We are the top of the line product, and we don't discount because discount represents X or Y or Z. We are the premium top of the line product. And then the pricing supports that. And that's the strategy. And if you waver off that, you create ambiguity in the marketplace. And that's not
the people who are buying Ferraris aren't waiting for a 10% off sale at Ferrari.
Good example.
And part
they
of
probably
this,
don't want one because they want to be that elite status.
Yeah, I'm paying for something. I want to get it. As soon as you start throwing in discounts, I started to question, like, okay, am I getting what I really paid for? And the other, the P we skipped over a little bit on product. It's similar. It's, what's my value proposition to this audience? What is it that makes my product, service, location, restaurant, store, software better or different than someone else's? So these are all kind of the precursors to when we get to what's your marketing strategy, how do you communicate, and how do you get people to respond. You need to have these things locked in ahead of time. And we tend to point out the mistakes people make. One of them, I think, is they just go out and start marketing. I'm just going to start sending out emails. I'm just going to start sending out.
Spend ads on Google.
I'm going to make brochures. I'm going to put ads in Google.
I'm going to do a bunch of ads on Facebook.
Hey, I'm here. Come buy my thing.
What are you targeting? Who are you targeting? So let's start from the very get-go is, do you know who the demographic people you're going after?
Demographic, psychographic.
That's got to be identified right up front. And it could be everybody in this geographic area. It could be everybody in this age range. It could be everybody in this. It could be everybody in that. But you got to know who you're going after before you even start talking about differentiating your product and these other things as it relates to the 5 Ps. So first,
you'll see people say, well, everybody could use this. It's like, okay, I'm not invested in that company.
Right.
Because
podcasting's been so fascinating, sticking to this forum, because the more niche you are, the more successful you can be. Those same in podcasting go, oh, my audience is everyone. Then your audience is no one.
Right. Yeah, well, we've debated. I mean, we talk about, we talk a lot about startup businesses, but it's not necessarily restricted to that as an audience. We want people who think of themselves as running a business, whether it's running a department or running a part of a business, or someday would like to start a business, have already started a business and are looking to grow it. We've spent a lot of time on that. Who is the ideal listener for what we're doing here on a weekly basis?
And I met Mickey's son. I forget his name. He introduced me, but he said, he was a young gentleman. He said, think of me. He was an entrepreneur. He goes, think of me when you're recording your podcast. I'm your audience. Right. So that was helpful to meet somebody who told me literally, I am the person you guys are speaking to.
Yeah, no. Doug's an aspiring entrepreneur. He's got a product that he's trying to get off the ground, and he's going to be successful. He's going to probably go through all the iterations of the things we're going through, and reached out to Brian and talked about how do we do this or do that, and so
that kind of helps define.
Yeah, those are that's part of your audience demographic that you're going after. So let's
then
start
you guys did 4 shots of Tito's together. So hence our sponsorship strategy. We know our audience.
So you got people, your people persona that you're going after. So first and foremost, better know that. Okay. Then Brian talked about product. Okay, so product is, all right, is it a product or is it a service? And then whichever that is, whether it's a service offering or you're offering some type of a product, what differentiates that product from anything else that's out there? And maybe it's the only product. Maybe there is nothing that it has to be differentiated against. Maybe it's something brand new, or maybe there's multiple of the same product out there, but then you got to describe it, or you have to differentiate yourself.
It's an interesting point you make there. That's another trap I see people run into. There is nothing like this. It's like, okay, but people are doing something today. Like when we first started, we said, well, there's no professional real estate photography. We're in a category by ourselves. It's like, okay, well, what do people do?
How do they market their homes today?
Well, they're doing it themselves. It's like, okay, well, that's the competition then. It's not just other professional photography companies. We're competing with the status quo, which is probably the toughest competition.
Right, because now you've got
people to change their behavior.
Different than how you've always known to do it or how you've wanted to do it. Now there's this new, potentially disruptive product or service that's out there. But that's, again, so you're targeting this audience. Here's your product or service. How are you differentiating it from other things? And in Brian's example, this is how it's always been done. So it's, even if the product's not out there, but this is how we've been doing it. So you've got to now figure out what is the differentiator in value. What's the value proposition for somebody to go and get that product? And that's got to be built into the strategy. Then we go into place, right? So how are you marketing this? Is this done all online? Is this done through a direct sales type engine? Is this direct marketing campaigns?
Yeah. Are you a restaurant? Are you a store? Where is the transaction happening?
Bricks and mortar? Are you got a storefront? How are you doing this? So that's the place of it. And again, it might just be automatic. It might be, well, it's online. Okay, great.
Yeah. Like Shop Melzy's just all online.
Right. So sometimes that's common sense. It's just,
But does shopping online mean your audience, your customers are only online? Can it be, I know online's important. Can it be a crutch sometimes for people to go, well, we'll just advertise online. We'll just market online.
Well, so the two aren't necessarily correlated. It's more about the experience that people are going to have.
Okay.
When you go to put together your marketing, I mean, you can still do billboards for a website. You could do postcards for a website, but you got to understand, okay, where am I trying to get them to go? Where am I trying to get them to transact business? That's the key to the marketing side of things. What action am I trying to get them to take, and where do they need to take it? Because I think we've talked about this once before. Getting people to change their behaviors immense. It's way harder than people think it is. So to get them to go to a new website they've never heard of and never used before is difficult. If you can ingrain your product in some other website that they already go to on a regular basis, that's an exponentially, quicker way to accelerate your business than trying to convince people, to remember your domain. Like ours used to be videohometours.com, and people would mess it up constantly. That's why we wound up going to VHT.com. It was easier to remember. So yeah, the place is important in the mix of the strategy. And we talk more about the strategy. You'll see how they all come together. But
yeah, and then lastly would be the promotion. So how are you actually going to promote the product or service? Buy one, get one free, 10% off.
Yeah, this is what most people think of when they hear the word marketing. Oh, TV commercials, ads in newspapers, emails, digital ads, and promotions. Like Brad said, discounts, buy one, get one free, coupons, certificates. It's all about
You're talking about the categories. I mean, you've got like the brand awareness type category.
Yeah.
Direct marketing campaigns.
Right. I was gonna skip ahead a little bit to
ROI.
Well, yeah, we can skip anyway.
Yeah, we can talk a lot about
when it comes to that last one, promotion. And we might have talked about this before too. To me, there's three keys. One is whatever it is, billboard, postcard, mailer, it has to be able to make an impact on people. Like it has to be able to get their attention. And nowadays, man, attention spans are like this tiny, and people are being bombarded with just everything. Right?
What?
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to figure out what's going to get somebody's attention nowadays. But that's a real key to marketing, is it's got to be something different. Because a lot of times you think about it from your own perspective, like, wow, this is a really cool brochure, or this is a really cool ad I'm going to put in this magazine. People are going to love it. But then like in real estate, we used to use photographs of homes in our ads because that's what we did. But then you would look through a magazine and go, okay, the whole freaking magazine is photographs of homes. Nobody's going to realize what we're advertising here.
Yeah.
So what is a standalone great potential advertising or marketing piece in your eye?
Right.
Is like a blink of an eye for somebody going through a lot of stuff. And that's why they say you have to see things repetitively multiple times before it even starts to stick. So A, it better be impactful, but B, it better be repetitive too. You got to do it over and over again.
Over and over,
it's
different avenues, different venues. When people see things in different places, that's why I think people do billboards. It's like, okay, that's a place, I'm not used to seeing things, but I do. You may hit me 6 times a day with an ad online and I don't catch it. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, I've heard of that name before, that big billboard, that casino in Aurora or that casino in Rockford. I hadn't heard of that one.
I think
before.
you're just focusing in on those signs. I think
you're
you're dialed in on those.
That billboard in Antarctica, that's crazy about careful the poisonous snakes.
That's a good one. Well, here in Chicago at 90, anybody who drives 90 knows that it's all hair replacement.
Well, that's so
it's Brian Urlacher and the hair.
So let's talk about that.
Right?
That's fairly new. Now, I know this is a little more local to Chicago, but just recently, it's a stretch of road that it's billboard. It's a highway, but some company did 10 of them in a row, which never really been done before. And
I don't know about 10 in a row, but there was
it was a lot.
It was a lot. There was
multiple. Yeah,
anybody who drives
the hair removal.
Yeah,
maybe
not in a row, but there's at least more than 10.
Not removal.
No, it was hair removal.
Brad fell for it. He was like,
I fell for that.
If you go from the suburbs all the way to the city,
work. It did,
and the whole city was talking about it. Because it was, even my girls in the car
I'll throw
were like,
another one out that I bet both of you know. What happens when you drive through Northeast Indiana, heading that way? What billboards do you see, especially in the summer?
The casino?
Crazy Kaplan's, fireworks.
Oh, yeah.
Billboards
Crazy
for
Kaplan
fireworks.
Yeah.
You can't buy them in Chicago, but you go across the border and Crazy Kaplan.
But the point, I think, to both of your examples is multiple times of seeing something before it even remotely sticks. Because if you blew right by a billboard once, you might go like, oh, okay, but you're not going to remember that. But if you see it multiple times, so it is about, to Brian's point, make an impact, but then it's got to be repetitive. It's got to be consistent to drive that message home.
Right.
I don't want to jump to ROI, but I want to remind me to talk about billboards when we get to that point. Right. I have a question for Brad.
Yeah. So number 2 is, in any promotion, really any communication period, make an impact, get through, make an impression. And the difference is an impression is it's memorable. And the test we used to always use was when somebody sees our ad and they, oh, interesting. Will they remember at the end of the day to share it with their husband or their wife or their kids, or go, hey, we got to look at the such and such store, such and such lake, or such and such restaurant, make an impression. And, I mentioned to Brad earlier, there's a Mastercard ad from, it's probably 2004 when Red Sox won the World Series.
Yeah.
I still remember to this day. Unfortunately, it's not actually an ad, it's a parody, but if I didn't say that, you wouldn't know. You would think. So maybe we'll be able to insert it.
Based off the price list thing?
Off a price list, yeah.
It was for Mastercard.
It was for Mastercard, and it was hilarious and just super memorable. I'm sure everybody's got a couple commercials or ads that, stick with them for 10, 20 years.
$5,000? Oh, crap, I wasn't serious!
Mastercard congratulates the 2004 World Series champion Boston Red Sox and reminds their fans that we have them all on tape.
All right, guys, that's everything. Let's roll. Hey,
My baby!
honey, it's only fair. Come on.
No.
Come on, the Sox won the whole thing.
No!
Go Sox!
Good luck!
Come on.
My baby!
Look, that's the way it is.
I don't think I said that.
Yes, you did, Mr. Leary.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, you said, and I quote, I'd give my left nut to have the Sox win the series.
Yeah, that kind of does sound like me. Ah, shit.
Mastercard, proud new owner of 90% of New England.
Ow!
And 50% of Dennis Leary's nuts.
You bastards.
That's powerful in marketing to ingrain. It's like getting that ear bug when somebody sings a song and you can't get it out of your head.
Oh my gosh, I could still do from all beef patty
No,
special
no.
sauce.
or Budweiser, the frogs. But it goes back to originally though when we were talking about, I think it was like podcast 1 or 2 when we were talking about like, this is why you can't flip flop on a name either. Once you get your name, don't and the reason why you say, well, don't just flippantly come up with a name and move on. Like, be sure this is the name you want, because you remember you have to build the repetition of that name and that brand being seen over and over and over again. So if you're like, it's a cool name today, but in a few weeks you're somebody that's going to flip flop and change the name, don't settle on a name. Come up with a name that you feel really good about and a brand you feel good about, a logo that you feel good about, that you're going to stay with, that you're going to be proud of and you're going to take pride in, because that's the thing, the name or the logo that you're going to be showcasing over and over again. Because that's what you want to embed in people's heads, that when they hear video home tours, they think of VHT Studios when they see that logo, or they think of By Your Side when they think of autism therapy services, or, hamburgers, McDonald's, right? I could start naming all our potential advertisers.
You sound like Donald Trump. McDonald's, Pepsi.
Let's just start going through all of them, right?
That gets to the third point. You're always a good segue for me. So impact, impression, and the last one's perception. No matter what you do, marketing wise, communication wise, it's going to create a perception in the viewer, and it can be a positive perception that conveys the brand message you want. We're a premium brand. We're high quality service.
We're fast.
We're fast. We're great. Right. Okay. Fast and easy.
It's.
I'm thinking
about sub places.
Right. Yeah.
Come on.
Food.
We keep it clean.
It's after hours.
Oh, it is.
Or I'm sure everyone has seen some ads where it's like, okay, wow, this company is, either not legit, or they're not good, or they're not reputable, or something. It will have, no matter what you say to people, they're going to come away with some perception of your company, and you want it to be as strongly positive as possible on brand, because then at some point down the road, them or someone else is going to see your logo or your tagline and go, oh, that's a good company. It's like, oh, how do you know? It's like, I just know.
Over time.
You've built that
embedded.
brand image in their minds and in their heads through your marketing, through your campaigns, your promotions. And
by the way, the Autism Center, I know it's autistic children, but the autism spectrum is very large. The marketing is, you have a challenge there because it's not everything for autism. So you do have but
we do know that there's
bless you, T-Rex. Let's acknowledge it. Bless you.
A-Rex.
That time of year,
We T-Rex.
Oh, sorry, A-Rex.
T-Rex.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's off for 2 weeks, and
I know your name's not.
We know, and for those of you that don't know, it's Amber, and Amber's dinosaur name is Ambersaurus Rex. So we call her A-Rex.
I know it's not Timber. I'm sorry. T-Rex just came out.
But yeah, so I think
getting to the point,
but you were saying, but it gets back to what's the demographic,
right?
Who you targeting? We're targeting, families that have a child on the autism spectrum. So meaning you take a pool of people and you narrow it to this, and then to Brian's point, can you narrow it more and more to get to a point where this is who we're actually trying to talk to? Now let's talk about our product or service. Where are we going to do it? What's the place? Is it going to be bricks and mortar center? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be in home? Is it going to be here? So all these things start talking about, how you're going to market into this consumer. And then we talk about, promotion, and it's, there's just so many different ways to promote a business or service. I mean, a lot of it now is social media driven. And Brian and I had a little debate a couple of days ago about just, as we started to talk about, okay, now you're a new business owner and you're going to be spending money in marketing. And we started talking about, okay, well, your return on investment, right? And if you don't have these 5 P's down, okay, the likelihood of you spending rather recklessly could very well happen, because then you're throwing money out there and hoping something hits. And that is what a lot of marketing is about. But the more you can target it and the more you have in mind the 5 P's, the better the chance of success you have. One of the things we talked about is one of the things we don't do in any business I've ever been involved is that you if you set up yourself a marketing budget, you're not going to pour all your money into that one initiative on the first try. You're going to want to trial it, say you want to give out, you want to give out a duffel bag with your logo on it, or you want to do a commercial on TV, or it could be any amount of money, anything. You got to think about all right, if we go and do this, first of all, do we want to spend that big of an investment in an advertising strategy or a marketing strategy that we don't know if it's going to be successful or not? And can you beta test it? Can you do some type of a sampling before you make the bigger investment? And that's something that Brian and I talked about at length, that you cannot make that big of an investment until something may have some stickiness to it.
I mean, we're doing this with CEO Bros. So you test different titles for the episodes. You test different graphics for the episodes. You test different descriptions for the episodes, and you test different countries. I mean, obviously, we talked about in Australia, something's hitting. Like, what's the difference between Australia and India or Germany or England or other places that we've been testing?
Yeah, 42% being, we're from Chicago, having a 42% audience from Australia is a little...
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Well, and the hard part of, ROI, because I know this is where everything always ends, the return on investment is, another famous cliche in marketing is John Wanamaker. He was the founder of Macy's, always said, 50% of my ad spend is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. So you always hear that about marketing. It's like, I don't know what the return is. I know I have to do advertising. Yeah. I just don't know what it is that gets people to respond. Well, nowadays, again, under that category of it's much easier to start a business than ever before, there's a gazillion tools. If you know what metrics you need to measure, you've got algorithms and Facebook and Google that can use AI and do this testing just rapidly and constantly, but it's not the whole story. There's really, what Brad and I were talking about is kind of 3 parts to marketing, or 3 categories of marketing. A big one is just brand building and awareness. Just very hard to get a measured return on, because you just have to make people aware that you're there. It's very hard to say that billboard brought 50 people into my restaurant this month.
That was going to be my billboard question, especially to you. I know how you look at some things. Where do you land on billboards? You cannot quantify it. Unless you put a code in there. It's something that you think hopefully people see, remember. Where do you land on billboards in general? Not even for buyers.
No, I think in general, if the billboard is placed in a location that's got a lot of viewership, it hits the demographic of people that you think you're marketing to, and the cost is effective and within your budget, I think it's worth giving it a try. I think it's a vehicle that you can give it a try. Some billboards are extremely expensive. Some billboards are in areas where you're like, I don't even know if I'm going to have the clientele I'm looking for in that area. So do I want to put a billboard in an area where I don't have a store? No, of course not. So it's got to be targeted, right place, right price point. And, but yeah, sure, it can make sense.
Do you think a billboard, just your best guess, is better for building a brand name or reinforcing a brand name?
That's a great question. I think reinforcing. Because the people you see that do the most brand awareness advertising are the Coca-Colas, the Pepsis, the Budweisers, the McDonald's. It's usually not a promotion. It's usually not a, hey, Coke's on sale this month, or Budweiser's throwing in an extra can. That's at the local level where they're actually selling it. The brand is, we're still here, we're still the best. Like we had to do.
Although, do you remember the launch? I don't know if you guys remember this well, but
or a Super Bowl ad to launch your company.
Specifically, billboards. I think it was a billboard campaign when Target came out. And do you remember they put billboards all over the place, and it was just the bullseye. It said "coming soon," and that's all it said. They didn't give the name, didn't give everything. It just put a bullseye up on a billboard, and it said "coming soon," and that's all it did. And they were all over the place. I thought it was actually a very cool campaign. Yeah, it was a very cool campaign because they were all over the place, and you were like, what is this? And you couldn't look it up, you couldn't search it online. You just said something's coming with a bullseye, but it got the bullseye in your head, and that's the Target logo. And so I thought it was a very effective campaign. It used billboards, and it set that a very quick, all you had to do was see that billboard and see that symbol of that bullseye, and you knew something was associated and coming soon. And I thought it was a very effective campaign. So I cut you off. You were talking about something.
No, that's all right. I was going to say on the other end of the spectrum, which is also very difficult to track, is a variety of different names for it. Field marketing. I call it sales support marketing. But this is, you have a sales team or a sales channel. They need support. They need brochures. They need presentations. They need demo videos. They need collateral. They need trade show support. It's almost a different discipline within marketing. Like some of the companies I've been with, you have a brand building advertising group, you have a sales support group, and then you have a direct marketing group, which we'll talk about next. Yeah. But we were always a sales first organization. So for the first 15 years, marketing's role was really, how do we help sales make more sales, bigger sales, retain clients? And a lot of it was trade shows. I got an interesting story. I actually have a show and tell for you.
Yeah, we have to do show and tell because actually I want one of those right now.
So let's do the story. Okay. I'm going to make a call here because we show you behind the curtain here. We're at 40 minutes. I have plenty more questions. I say we sit where we are, but Rex, what do you say we end this episode and we tease you with the part 2, and let's just keep talking.
We can have a part 2 marketing.
Yeah.
Can he hand out his? No, actually, that would be the next.
Want to make it a tease, or you want to end with a story?
Well, I have it here, so.
But it will be the next episode. Do you want to tease it for the next? We're gonna keep talking. We're just gonna make it a separate episode.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Hey, I see. Okay.
You know what?
Simpson, so
it's the end. Mr. Simpson, I think he's talking to you.
I step on your foot.
I think he's talking to you.
So that could not be a...
Oh, now when I say hello, Mr. Thompson, and press down on your foot, you smile and nod.
No problem.
Hello, Mr. Thompson.
I think he's talking to you.
Brian's confusion is the best tease we could ever do. We are ending this episode. We are coming out. We are going to stay here and keep talking, and it's going to be a separate episode.
I think people wanted to see the show and tell, but we'll end it.
We should do the teases at the beginning so people watch the whole episode.
They want to come. No, they want to come. The next
they got to come back next Friday.
Yes,
okay.
yes. That's a different tease. That's a cliffhanger.
All right,
don't you watch TV?
Don't
you watch TV?
He's our host.
Don't you watch TV? Every
good
your cliffhangers at the beginning of a TV show, people would stop watching.
Okay.
You killed them, and then that's the end of your show. Who killed JR? Was that at the beginning? It was at the end.
I don't know if you know this right now, but Matt, somebody in Australia is finishing breakfast, and they're mad at you right now because they actually had a good marketing strategy playing out. Then
hit subscribe. You will automatically get the next episode, and you will hear this story. We'll see you next time. You guys stay here. We're going to keep talking. We're just going to...
Sounds good. Okay. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
All right. Take it easy.
That makes the call.
Thanks.